Man, it's come a long way with those things. Of used to open heart. I remember when Dad had his first one was probably in the early '90s, and it was a day or so still on the vent before they'd even start to let you move. Now they're wanting her walking tomorrow. So let's remember Sister Pam, remember Oakley. That the Lord bless them. Anyone else have anything before we go, Lord, in prayer? Yep, she's at Holston Valley. And remember Chastity's papa, Ernest Duncan? He's in the VA hospital at Johnson City, and he's having some heart issues and very low heart rate, and so they're running some tests and stuff on him. He was been over there since yesterday, and so remember Ernest too in a special way. Well, I didn't hear you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Remember Megan nicely. Anyone else? S- Remember both of them. Remember both of them tonight. I have not heard nothing the last 2 days. Dave Mack, have you? Yeah, the last I know, he is out of the hospital, and they're in they've got to stay in an apartment down there close by for. Yeah, that's why I started saying maybe a month. That's the last I knew he was good. Robin Sturgill. Remember Robin Sturgill, please. Anyone else? If not, all those with unspoken. Ask all that would come gather around the altar for prayer tonight. I ask Brother Scott if he'll lead us. why I'm not the sound guy and don't know a thing about it. Give me just a minute.
I'll say this on you have to say this to let Max in, but I guess that's me a lot more than you.
What was it?
To let Max in, let this on your computer, but I said that's probably me a lot more
Yeah.
than you.
Oh, I was looking for the clip and it was still clipped on me. Yes. I don't know why that's not staying. Yeah, Zach, this clip mic won't clip into this clip for some reason. I can find it. Okay, now I think we're ready. Okay, so we're going to go to Exodus 17, and I was telling Pastor today that in our trip over to Kingsport, I went back lately, and I wanted to go back as me and Jay's been doing some of the Sunday nights, and I know I done Acts a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to go back I went back and I keep all my sermons that I've ever done. I keep them on that Google Drive, and I go and look at them from time to time, and just different stuff. But I went back on some of those, and I said, man, I want to do this one again sometime. And so anyway, I actually had planned on last Sunday night, and then we done the God Moments, the second Oklahoma trip, I think, or wherever they went, Samaritan's first trip. But so anyway, I'm going to cover this one tonight. You may remember some of this that I taught on a few years ago. Probably been about, I think I went back and looked, it's about 4 years ago. But it was called, when I preached on it at that time, it's called Just Climb the Hill. And the message come from, of course, the Lord. But the way the Lord kind of brought it about to me was through Hannah McCamus. And when Lauren had got sick, when she was, I guess, 13, and we went to Johnson City and flew back to Memphis and all those things, Hannah had wrote me this little letter, and I shared some of that the Sunday morning that I preached on this message, but she'd shared to me just what it meant for her to go over there. And the best I remember, and I've got it somewhere saved. Actually, she sent it to me on the phone, and I actually printed the thing off, and it's in my office somewhere at the house. But Basically it kind of said that, when TJ and them were coming over that evening, Hannah wanted to come and TJ wouldn't let her. He said, no, you don't need to go. And I think Hannah was crying and upset, and TJ finally gave in and let her go. And it's probably one of the best things that could have happened to Lauren that night was having Hannah there. Because Lauren was old enough at the first go around, at age 1, she didn't know what was going on. She don't even remember none of that. But at that time, at 13, or I guess she was 13, at that time she knew, and so she sat in there and asked me, when hard to talk about. Even this many years later, it still gets hard to talk about. But she asked me, when your daughter looks at you, 13-year-old, and she looks at you and says, Dad, am I going to die? That's so hard. That was so hard. But anyway, Hannah had wrote me this note, and it kind of turned into this message because part of her note said she did not know what to say going over there. She did not know what to say. And listen, it's not, we just came back from a hospital visit, and you don't always know when you go. You can try to play it through your mind. What am I going to say? What am I going to tell them? But it's not about that. It's about being there. And so that turned into just climb the hill, right? Just climb the hill. So that's where this comes from. We're going to look at some of that tonight. I'll try not to be very, very long. But we'll give the Lord his time. So Exodus 17, 8 through 12. And I've been in a bad habit. I noticed myself a couple weeks ago. I said, familiar scripture. This is familiar scripture. Well, it may not be for everybody, right? You may have somebody here that don't know the story. So I started to say that just then, familiar scripture. But the story comes from Exodus 17. And so we're going to see the battle here. And this is when Moses is going to go up on the mountain. So then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose out men, go out and fight. Go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. Verse 12 says, but Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and they put it under him. And he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side, the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And that kind of gives you a picture of it. You see they're fighting in the valley, and when Moses is, they put this stone underneath him, and they're on each side holding up his hands. That kind of gives you the picture of that. So to give you a little background, if we think about Moses, one of the strongest leaders of all time. There's some great leaders in the Bible, right? If we want to go look at some of those great leaders, we could probably all name a different leader from Moses to then Joshua was a great leader, right? Give me some more. Who's some other great leaders in the Old Testament? Abraham, another great leader. Yep. Anybody else? Nobody said Nehemiah. I was getting ready to say, has anybody been coming on Wednesday nights? Ezra. About David. Who else? Somebody say another one? But so we've had all these great leaders, but Moses, listen, Moses was one of the strongest leaders. And Moses, if you want to look at him and you want to compare yourself to Moses, he's one of them, right? He's got a background. He wasn't a very good speaker. He couldn't do much. But God said, I'll take care of that. You just go. And so he trusted God, and he went. And, think of everything Moses has faced up to this point. From going down and facing Pharaoh and bringing the children out and going to the sea. And he sees the waters parted. He sees the manna provided. He sees the water provided. And Moses is, he's this phenomenal leader. And Moses, if you look at those leaders, and let's take Nehemiah, for example, as the pastor's been teaching on Wednesday nights. If you wanted to pick out some characteristics about Nehemiah was concerned for his people, right? Man, he had a concern for his people. He had a concern for the family. Moses was the same way. Don't know if you've read a whole lot on Moses or in the stories, but when you go to look at Moses went to God a lot of times on behalf of the people. I mean, a lot of times when God was like, you know what? I'm about done with that bunch. And Moses would go, I'm going to blot their name out. I'm going to do this. And Moses would go and say, God, don't put that on them, please. And he would speak on their behalf, and he was so concerned with them. So Moses prayed leading up to this point. I can see Moses praying with outstretched hands. Moses is one of those leaders that he prayed with outstretched hands. And he was this strong leader. But also, you got to think about this. An uplifted arm can only be raised for so long, right? Try it sometime. I've done this little story example in youth, and this has been several years ago, 5-6 years ago. And I had Isaiah in there one night. I gave him a staff, and I was like, "Here, hold this up." And I had him standing behind me back here, I think we was across the hall here where the daycare is at. And I said, "Here, hold this up, and I'll tell you when to let it down." And I just turned back around and went to teaching the kids. And I left him there for a few minutes. And then I turned back around, and I was like, "Well, you're still doing good." And he's like, "Yeah, can I quit yet?" And I was like, "No, I ain't done yet." So I went back to teaching, and then, I think he was back there resting when I wasn't looking. Maybe his sister told on him, but anyway, you can only raise your arms up for so long. And no matter how much Moses loved the children of Israel and how much he had went to God for them and how much he was going, it was dependent on him holding that staff up. And he knew enough as a leader to recognize what was going to cause the children of Israel to prevail, what was going to cause them to lose. But it said what? His hands were heavy. So heavy, what does that mean? It means when we get weary, we get tired, and we start to hurt. And let's just share a little bit tonight, okay? Let's just. It's Sunday night. It's Mount Olive Crew, right? It's your foundational people. They come on Sunday nights and they want to hear God's word, and they want to get taught, and they want to get closer. But you know what? Sometimes our arms get a little bit heavy, right? It does. It's so easy to get weary. It's so easy to get tired. It's so easy to start to hurt. And sometimes we look at other people and we think, man, they handle it well. I don't know how you do what you do. And listen, people get tired. Even the strongest, they get tired. They get weary. And so it kind of leads to where we're going here in this message. But so things get heavy, and they get so heavy in our lives that sometimes what was Moses' options? What was his options? I mean, his love, Big Steve, his love was going to make him want to stand there till it hurt and it cramped and he couldn't do it no more. If he didn't have anybody else, I don't know what he would have done, if he could have found something to prop his arms up or whatever. But he was just going to keep on going. And we get that way in life too, and aside from the church example, right, the biblical answer. Aside from that, we get tired in our families, right? It's hard, moms. It's hard, dads. Sometimes things get heavy in our lives, and we need the helpmates. We need the people to stand in the gap for us. We need people to be there. Sister Pam over there this evening, and I know she wouldn't care for me sharing this a bit. She was struggling today. She was struggling. She's scared. She's nervous. She's worrying. She's got some fear. And if I'm there in that hospital bed, I'm in the same boat she is. But she's heavy right now. Her arms are heavy. She needs her brothers and sisters of Mount Olive Church to lift her up. She needs the ones that's going to anoint her in prayer. She needs the ones that's going to that's going to lift her up at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 when she goes into that operating room. She needs the ones that's going to check on her throughout the week. Oakley's going to be the same way. And you know what? I will promise you, things have been heavy in Dave McMichelle's life. It's been heavy on them. And we all get that, you know, and that's just, we can throw out a couple examples real quick. So things get heavy. Number 2, so they placed a stone under him. Sometimes it's hard to stand. We want to sit down. We want to just sit down. I need a break. I've just got to sit down. No mention of his legs getting tired, right? They seen this. Aaron and her, they can see him. You know what? You ever see somebody when they've been working for a real long time, or they've had their arms up? First thing when they start getting tired, they go to trembling a little bit. They go to shaking. Same thing in his legs. I can picture this of Moses' legs. They began to tremble a little bit, and they knew he was getting tired. And I don't know. Maybe Moses looked at him and said, guys, I'm getting tired here. I've got to sit down. If it did, it wasn't important enough that it put it into Scripture. But I think they had to be focused on what was going on around them. They had to see that. So that stone, what does it represent? That stone that they put under him, that's a sign of support. And it took an effort on their part for their brother to be able to rest. It takes an effort on our part when people's legs get tired. It takes an effort on our part. And you know what? Me and Pastor were talking about this a few minutes ago. We literally pulled back into his driveway at 2 minutes till 6, and and we're thinking, we need to do this again. When we, who else we need to see, and it's something that, ouch and shame on us, brother. Something we used to do really regular. Something we used to do really regular. But what about the rest of us? How much effort? Do we not place the stone under somebody because it's too much effort on our part? It's a lot easier to just say, praying for you. Ouch and amen. It's a lot easier to just say, I'm praying for you. But it takes some effort on our part to be able to move the stone, right? And so look what it says. They took a stone and put it under him. That wasn't them taking Moses and saying, hey, Moses, there's a stone up there. We need you to walk up there on top of the hill. Nope, they took a stone. Wherever it was at, they went and got it, and they brought it to him. It took some effort on their part, okay? So stayed up his hands, point number 3. So what does that represent? That's a show of love and compassion and selflessness. The ideal Christian. That should be us. Show of love, compassion, and selflessness. Nope, you don't worry about getting that done. I'll take care of it. That's right. That's being a servant. That's seeing your brother or your sister or whoever that is that they need help. But to stay up their hands, okay? So not only did they put the stone there and it took some effort, but they were going to have to lift their hands up a little bit too. They were going to have to not just move the stone and set him down and say, there you go, bud, we're going back down to the camp. We'll be back in a little while later to check on you. Don't fall asleep. Keep your arms up. That wasn't what they done. Not only did they put the stone there, but they got on each side. But here's the thing. Holding up each other's arms, it's going to cause them to get a little tired and weary too. So, if me and Jason can get on each side of Pastor, sometimes when he's holding his arms up and he's praying with outstretched arms for this church and he begins to get a little bit weary, me and Jay can go take a rock and we can set it underneath him and we can put a little effort into our part. And we can say, all right, you get on one side, Jay, I'll get on the other, and we'll hold his arms up. But I'm going to tell you something. If everybody else don't show up, sooner or later, me and Jay's going to get tired. See where we're going here? Kind of all falls into place. So, holding up others' arms will cause us to get tired and weary as well. Point number 4. Gosh, we're going to be, I told you, just be quick. The one on one side and the other on the other side. It wouldn't do a lot of good if me and Jay fought over the same side. Wouldn't do a lot of good. It takes teamwork. It takes unity. 2 people come and mow. Jay, we both can't ride the John Deere. One of us has got to get on that junky Toro. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. But it takes unity in the teamwork. And when I want you to go back to that picture that shows them setting that rock under him and them getting on each side. And I want you to think about how that's a picture of the church and God's love. Go. I'm about 100% positive it's still on there, unless Zach or somebody's updated it. I don't know when the last time we've done that. You go pull up our mission statement on our website. Go pull up what Mount Olive MTO Church, what we're about. And we've got like 3 different things on there of what we do. Our mission statement, what we're about. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but you go look at up, and you're going to see this right here, this picture. Supporting the hurt, the discouraged, the lost, the frustrated, the weak, and the helpless. It don't say that. Don't go look at that and say, Jody didn't have that right. I'm just saying, if you read those mission statements that we have on there, it'll cover that in what we do. Locally, abroad, bringing people to Christ, being there for brothers and sisters. It covers that. So a picture of the church is supporting the hurting. It's lifting their arms up. It's supporting the discouraged. It's supporting the lost. Those that, and not by the lost, I mean those that may be losing their way. Those that may not know exactly what's going on in their life right now. Maybe those that's going through a battle. Those that's had a loved one walk out or whatever that may be. It's supporting those people. The frustrated. There ain't nobody here wants to support the frustrated because we end up taking the brunt of it, right? You come try to support me when I'm frustrated, I'm going to bite your head off. Stay away from Jody. But that's what it should be about. And the weak and the helpless. So supporting those. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. I love this scripture. I've used it I don't know how many times doing devotionals with sports teams. And I love this. It says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth. For he hath not another to help him up again. Again, if 2 lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if 1 prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him. And a 3-fold cord is not easily broken. You can take a rope and unwind that thing. And you can take the smallest thread in there and break it. But you take 3 or 4 of those and you bind them up together, you can pull a truck with them. That's how much strength you got. You can pull a vehicle with them. So number 5, steady until the going down of the sun. So what does that mean? You know what that means? That means Aaron and Hur, no matter how long they were there, they looked and said, Brother Moses, we're with you. I'm not going anywhere. We're not going back down to the camp. I'm in it for the long haul with you. As long as you're in the battle, Moses, I'm in the battle. And too many times today, listen, pastor needs to know, not only with all of us, but he needs to know from me. He needs to know from Jay. He needs to know from his deacons. He needs to know, you know what? We ain't going nowhere. We're here. When your arms get heavy, we're going to lift you up. We're going to put a stone under you. And it's the same way in our own in the lives of everybody else. And I don't mean to put that just on leadership, but it starts there.
if that makes sense. It has to start there. But it has to take place within all the church. And here's the thing. There's a battle going on while they're on the hill, right? Don't jump on Aaron and Hur for being up there holding up arms and say they should have been down there in the battle. There's people that have different parts, and there's times that I may be fighting in the battle, and Scotty's got to roll the stone over there with Jay. He's got to get on one side. There may be times that me and Jay's both down there in the battle, and Stevie and Big Steve have to be on each side of Pastor holding up his arm. There's different times for that. But they stayed until the going down of the sun, meaning that they're there throughout the duration of the battle. As long as it lasts, I'm with you. I'm with you. As long as I'm in this church, and as long as I'm able to stand and speak, I'll never forget this saying, and I'll go with it the rest of my life. I'm with you, Bob. Remember that one, Jay? I'm with you. How many of y'all remember that? When we talked, now I've done lost the name of the book. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Love does. Thanks, Mom. Love does. And Bob, I'm with you, Bob. I'm with you. Wherever. Whatever, it's fine. If you want to do that, I'm with you. And that's the way we need to be too, right? So when Moses' arms got heavy, big point here, when Moses' arms got heavy, he either had to tell Aaron and Hur, or they had to be focused on the situation. One of the two had to happen. There's no other way around it. They didn't scoot that stone over just because they thought it was a good idea. They had to be focused and know that he was getting tired and they was going to have to get... Not only that, they had to know what was going on in the battle. Okay? Think about that. They just wasn't keeping their eyes on him, but they know when his hands are up, they're winning the battle. When his hands are down, they're losing. So they were in tune enough. They had to be around enough to know. Okay? They had to be around enough to know that when his arms went down, they lost the battle. Either that, or Moses had to look over at them and say, guys, if I put my arms down, we're going to lose. And my arms are getting heavy. Either way, it don't matter. There's times that we need... Shame on Jody. I'm open and transparent here. I struggle with that. I struggle with telling. I struggle with saying, I need help. Come help me with this, do this. I struggle with that. Chastity gets frustrated at me because of that. But I struggle with being the one to say, can you help me hold my hands up? Can you slide a stone under me? And then I get more frustrated because I said, was they not looking? Did they not know they shouldn't put a stone under me? Did they not know they shouldn't get on each side of me? I shouldn't have to tell them. Right? Anybody else? I'm the only one? Thanks, Katie. I appreciate that. Either one of the two had to happen. One of the two. Okay? Sometimes we don't, and I'm right now done. Sometimes we don't have the words to say or know what to say or what to do. Listen, it's okay. It's okay. I don't either. I will tell you this, out of 20-some years of going to a lot of hospital visits, a lot of visitations, and I'm talking about some hard ones, or walking in when somebody's lost a loved one. You don't know what to say. You can run it through your mind 100 times before you get there. I promise you it's going to go different when you do. You don't have to worry about what to say. You go with the right intentions. You go with the right heart of wanting to love on them and serve them and be there for them. And I will promise you, with everything in me standing behind this pulpit over God's word, He'll work on that part. He will take care of that part. You just climb the hill. You just go up the hill with them. That's all you need to do. Never, I don't know, they may have had a long conversation when they walked up that hill, but it's not in here. Only thing they did is they seen their brother. They knew there was a battle going on. They knew their brother was walking up that hill, and they was going to climb up it with him. That's all you got to do. You climb the hill. Stay focused on the situation. Just be there. Just be there. Without Aaron and Hur, how long could Moses have kept his arms up? I don't know. I don't know. How long can you keep your arms up if you don't have that helpmate on the other side? And here's something else. We can only go so far up the hill with them. That's hard, and I'll try to explain that, but you can only go so far up the hill with them. When somebody's in, when it's something tragic or whatever, you can only, sooner or later, I know we've all got to go home and we've got to go to our families, and you can only go so far up the hill. But we can make sure somebody else is taking our place. We can make sure somebody else is going up that hill too. But when you get up there and you're on that hill, you stay throughout the duration, but you can always tell them that God's always going to go. God's always on the hill. And I want to tell you that tonight too before we quit. If you think you've climbed that hill and your arms are getting tired, you need to know two things. Number one, you need to tell somebody. You need to tell a brother or sister in Christ. You need to tell them, I need something to sit on. And I need somebody to help prop my arms up. And the other thing you need to do is you need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if there ain't nobody else walked up that hill with you, God will scoot that stone over there. Or he'll move you to where that stone's at to give you a place to sit down. And when you think your arms are so tired and they're shaking that you can't hold it up no more, I promise you God will give you the strength to hold it up and keep them up. Okay? Verse 15, Moses built an altar at the name of this place. They go on, they win this battle. He stayed up his arms with Aaron and Hur, and they ended up winning this battle. Moses built an altar, and he called the name of it Jehovah Nissi, the Lord is my banner. And banner meaning a covering of protection. And it was a reminder to him, and it was a reminder to the children of Israel how God had intervened in this situation. So, where's your banner? If I could ask you something tonight before we quit, where do you hang that banner? What part of your life is that banner hanging in? This is the Lord is my banner. The Lord is my covering of protection. Because we've all got those, right? We've all got that place of Jehovah Nissi in our life where we can say, this is when God intervened in my life. This was when his banner of protection was over top of me. We all have that. So I end on this right here, last part. What's keeping me from climbing to the top of the hill with others? Right, it's time. This is the. That's one of those questions, self-examination questions. We need to be looking at ourselves, and we need to be thinking, what's keeping who? I know somebody's up on this hill right now. Somebody's on this hill, and they're in a battle, and they're getting tired, and they're getting weary. What's keeping me from climbing the hill? Is it effort? I hope not. Been there, done that. I ain't got the time. I've been there. But what's keeping me from climbing the hill? I'm just going to leave it at that. Ask yourself that question. What altars of victory have I placed in my life? Where have I hanging that banner? I've already asked that one. And am I alone on top of the hill? You may not seem, it may seem like you are, but I promise you you're not. Okay, you need to tell somebody, you need to let somebody know, and you need to remember that God is always on top of that hill. Okay? I hope something out of this tonight give you all a little something. And it has been a long day. I've left early this morning and I ain't been back home. So I sat in the back of TJ's truck with the iPad trying to finish studying on the way home, and I couldn't do it for Chas and Ross talking the whole time. So anybody got anything? I'm just joking, okay? So. And anybody online listening, I'm joking.
Hey, Jody, when you were talking about paying, the Lord just put it up on my heart that maybe after service we can have a special prayer for her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we close out, or as we're we'll just do that as a closeout tonight. We'll come up and have prayer. That's a good idea. What was it? Okay, so Sister Pam Collins, and we went over and visited with her today. That's where I was talking about we had been. And Sister Pam's having open heart surgery in the morning. They're going to take her in about 7:30. And Pam's she's, as expected, and I would be too. She's a little nervous. She's a little discouraged. She's a little worried and fearful. But we had prayer with her today, and I'm praying, I'm already praying that God's took that away from her. But about 30 minutes before we got there today, she had also found out she had a stent put in her carotid artery on her neck a few years ago. And the stent is still clear, but she has a blockage, about 90% blockage just above that stent. So they're concerned about that, but there's nothing they can do about it until they take care of the blockage in her heart. And it's actually on the widowmaker side of her heart, and she has 3 blockages. So there's just trickles of blood going around it, so they're going to get her in the morning and take care of that, and then they'll deal with the neck part after that. So, did I miss anything? Was that about right? Well, I'll tell y'all this, and then we'll come to prayer. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but even today, when we were driving over to Kingsport, when we got in the truck at TJ's and left, and we're going down the 4-lane, and I kept thinking, well, I'm gonna tell him something here in just a minute, and I'm gonna tell him something. And then the devil started saying, don't need to tell him that. You don't need. And so as we started going, I said, well, brother, I'm gonna tell you something that I've been struggling with. And so I shared something on him that's really, it's took a toll on me for several months. And for anybody that thinks it wasn't nothing between me and him or anything like that, it's just and it wasn't sin or anything in my life. It's just a direction with the Lord for me and decisions. But I've probably, I don't know, honey, how long? 5-6 months been fighting that, battling that, and he's my closest friend, and he's my pastor. I've never said anything to him, and there was times I wanted to, and then I thought I better not tell him that because I don't want him worrying about this or that or thinking anything, and so I didn't. But I felt better after I did, and I know he can help me and guide me in that and give me some guidance and pray for me, and I'm not good at that either, so.
Of course, Moses, Coach Jody, I've always looked off if I could have the interaction with you, second to none, with Abraham and all of them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say call God out, but he didn't care to say, God, you can't do that. Look what people think, just let them out here die.
It's like total opposites. And if you think about Abraham, there's a story with him, with when God's about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and Abraham says, well, what if there's 50 righteous there? What if there's 40? What if there's 30? What if there's 20? And he would plead with God. If you didn't hear Scotty, the thing about Moses, there was times saying that he would go to God and he'd say, you can't do, if you do that, people are going to think you're an unjust God, that you're not right, that you would do this to these people. He pleaded for his people. And then the next day, they's trying to kill Moses. And then 2 days later, he'd go back to God for him again. He's a good leader. That's a good point, Scotty. I want to challenge you with this before we come and pray. I want to challenge you with this. This week, every single day this week, throughout this week, 2 times a day, I want you to text somebody. I want you to text somebody and pray about it. Don't just pick me out and text me, but I want you to pray about it. Let God show you somebody that you think's in a struggle. Somebody that's on the hill. Somebody needs a stone put on them. Somebody needs their arms lifted up. I want you to message somebody, and I want you to let them know that you're there. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know that you love them. Let them know if they need anything, that you're there to scoot that rock under them. I want you to find somebody. Do that two times a day this week. That's not that hard. You can do that, okay? It's homework. Now, next Sunday night when you come back, I want to list those people and their answers and their responses, okay? I'm just kidding on that part. All right, if nothing else, we'll invite Will wants to come up. Let's come around the altar and we'll close.